This is a really hard question, and people get this wrong a lot because I think that they forget their purpose in the writing section. Remember, your goal here is not to write the best essay possible. Your goal is to just clean up someone else's essay. And so we're not allowed to make judgments based on like what we would want to say. We are kind of limited in our options. And so this sentence here that they want us to add, the group's philosophy was connected to the tale of the hare and the tortoise, in which the tortoise wins the race. Well, I don't care whether you think that's interesting. We need to decide based on how that fits in with everything else that we were already given, the stuff that we can't change. And so if we look at this paragraph, what are we really talking about, right? Well, we know it's about slow food. It caused a stir in Italy when they opened a restaurant. Okay, young on-the-go eaters were thrilled, so on the go. Those who prized regional foods in Italy's convivial culture built on cooking and long meals feared the restaurant signaled the death of their way of life. To counter the rise of fast food and fast life, a cohort of chefs, journalists, and sociologists spearheaded a slow food movement, declaring loyalty to unhurried enjoyment. So what is this paragraph about? It's about food. What is this sentence about? A race between a tortoise and a hare? Now, hopefully we all have heard this story at some point, so that's the thing, as we're familiar with the story and the moral of the story. But that's not enough, right? So when you write something, you need your audience to be able to understand your point. Your audience shouldn't have to make guesses about what you meant. And I think this is something that a lot of you are probably guilty of when you write essays in school, is you just kind of assume that your teacher or whoever's reading your essay knows what you meant. That's bad. That's not going to work in college, I promise you. So what you need to do is you need to be clear. And right now, if I were to add this sentence right here, I don't think it's clear how a tortoise and a hare story matches up with this idea of the slow food. Like maybe because the tortoise is slow and wins, that's good because the food that's slow wins. Right? But notice, that's not a line in the sentence or in the passage. That's a line that I'm coming up with to justify this. That's not okay on the SAT. We see this in the reading section as well. We should not be doing the work. The lines should be doing the work. We should not have to make assumptions. The lines should explain the assumptions that are being made. So the lines are where we need to make sure that any connection between the ideas in the passage, that those ideas and those connections are as explicit as can be. This is a jump. This is a jump from an entire paragraph about food to a random sentence about a folk tale. That's not great. So let's look at the yes choices, because I think a lot of people do want to include this. So let's see. If you wanted to include it, remember, you need to look at the becauses and make sure that the becauses are valid reasons for including it. Can't just be that, like, you like it, right? That's not an option. It needs to be included for one of the reasons it's given. So let's look at choice A. What does it say? It explains the primary belief that led to the development of the slow food movement. Does it explain the primary belief? No. It just kind of hints at a tortoise beating a hare in a race. That's not explaining anything. This word is certainly not justified by this one sentence. So, if anything, the other lines kind of seem to explain it, not this line. Let's look at B. It reinforces a claim that the writer makes earlier in the paragraph. Here's a great example where you just need to follow instructions. If this says it reinforces a claim that the writer makes earlier in the passage, in the paragraph, you should be able to point to the claim. It should not be some vague kind of fuzzy feeling you get from the lines. It should be something you can point to and underline. That's what it means to refer to something that came before. So what is it referring to? What is it supporting? Again, there's nothing about the tortoise and the hare. I guess maybe the philosophy. It's such a weak connection here. There's not a lot that we can point to without, again, us doing the work. We need to stick to what's in these lines. But now let's look at C. It blurs the paragraph's focus by introducing a new idea that is not clearly explained. Yeah, for sure it's not clearly explained. Because if it were clearly explained, I wouldn't have to come up with all these reasons on my own. The reasons would be there for me for why this fits in the passage. So this is going to be my answer. Now the reason it's not D, it distracts from the paragraph's emphasis on the slow food movement's origins and beliefs, is, well, it's kind of talking about that. Even if it's not a great way of introducing it, it's still trying to relate to the movement's origins and beliefs. More important, we can remember some of the strategies that we use for the reading section. Strong choices are usually bad. If we're given the option to pick a weaker choice, that's probably going to be right. And in this case, choice C is definitely weaker than choice D, right? Blurs the focus is kind of a nice, vague way of saying that the line is unrelated. D distracts from it is kind of more aggressive. It's saying that not only is it unrelated, but it actually like undermines and really harms the passage. Yeah, I don't want to include it, but I don't think including it would like destroy the essay here. Like, it's not that bad, but it's still not worth including. And so yeah, C is the answer here. And I think, like, if you've seen a lot of SATs, this shouldn't come as a shock. If early on, if you're in your practice early on, like, yeah, you might have been confused by this one. But this is a great example of the SAT. What they like to do is they just kind of like to throw in a random fact that's just like barely connected to what they're talking about. And so because of that bare connection and your brain's ability to strengthen the connection to kind of get the answer it wants, you're more inclined to include something that's otherwise just like totally random. And so that's my reminder, is that we really need to stick to the lines that are here. We are not writing this essay. Someone else has written it. If they've chosen not to include a clear explanation for why the tortoise and the hare inspired this slow food movement, we are not allowed to concoct that explanation for them and pretend that it's there. It's not there. So we can't invent it and try to make this sentence fit. It doesn't fit. It's a really tricky question, really tricky. But yeah, try to follow the instructions, try to go with what's there, stick to the lines, don't invent things, and you're much more likely to get something like this right the next time.